Uh, oops. Hello and welcome to Ideas with Diana on this July 13th, 2022. Well, today I'm using my computer camera. I forgot to hook up the cable, so the picture may look a little bit strange like that. There we go. Just have to look into the camera a little bit. Um, well, for today's topic is where is the leadership and are you listening elites? Now, the reason why I had the second question, are you listening elites? It goes back to my open mic days when I used to do open mic in Kenosha and in other areas of the country. There's a friend of mine, a fellow poet, and she used to sometimes use the phrase, "Are you listening?" just to interact with the audience to see what their response was. And also, one time when I was being heckled, one person in the audience sort of thought they discovered that I was male to female, basically transitioned, and they yelled out in the audience, how many balls do you have? So as a Butlacy, so she came on stage with me and she said, well, sir, we actually have more balls than you because we're willing to go on stage and we're willing to speak our minds. Now, why is that important? Because in this era of managed news, politically centric news, especially what I'm talking about is I'm not going to use West. I'm not going to use the word West, but I'm going to use the words that many of us, the news we watch in the United States, Canada, and even in England, because of banning of certain news or filtering of news, where all of us hear the same script. I mean, I could listen to CBS, ABC, NBC, which I do sometimes if I can't sleep and I listen in the morning. And I can hear almost exactly the same script said from each commentator on this thing in the Ukraine. It's not word for word. They're sophisticated enough to know that they're not in high school anymore, so they can't get away with copying word for word or substituting words. But basically, when you consider semantics and what's said, it's almost like basically they follow from the same base script and talking points. Now, when I listen to other news, I hear other aspects that basically aren't mentioned on the news that basically some people listen to in the United States, CBS, ABC, NBC, even the CBC, or the European news, Deutsche Welle, France 24. But to be fair, France 24 has been more open about getting certain news items out that aren't discussed in American news as well as Deutsche Welle. But France 24 has been more aggressive in getting those points out, even allowing independent journalists who are not cleared by the quote group that's managing the Ukraine war to speak, and even giving shelter to having the journalists speak even when they're in shelter locations because they're deemed to be anti anti-war journalists or something when they're actually not. Um, just to give an example, when I say where's the leadership, well, okay, I was watching RT last night, and there's a report by Rachel Marsden, and she's talking about the EU reclassifying green energy as basically nuclear and coal. Wow, you guys finally woke up. Guys in the EU, the four leadership finally woke up. They realized that green energy is not ready to run a country, folks. And it's not ready to run electric cars because in Racine County, there are only two electric pumps, one on Spring Street and one at the Walmart on Highway 11. So, to those of you who want to buy massive amounts of Tesla or other cars, be prepared to wait at one pump at each station to charge unless you're able to drive to an IKEA and use their three pumps and pump up, or try to call We Energy to set up a charging line at your house. Be prepared to pay a $500 electric bill like that though, because energy rates even around here have gone up. My electric bill has gone up 10%. So what her point was basically with the EU sort of saying, oh, well, now we're going to classify nuclear and coal as clean energy, and we're going to end Russian gas forever, like Germany says. What is it now? They're going to end Russian natural gas in August, and the other and the petrol gas on and auto gas, basically, as we say in the United States, on December. She said, "Well, I hope you're able to do this and keep things going, guys, because it's like someone in the middle of the ocean burning the sails and hoping they can get to port." I think that's her exact quote. I may be paraphrasing a bit, but I had a friend watching with me, and what happened was we had a good chuckle because basically it does hit to the heart of the matter, and she really does gave a hard hitting view in that comment, which is what I say too. Is basically because at one time when this Ukraine matter started, I was thinking maybe I should send a care package to help the European leadership, the four people, with this matter. And what my care package was going to include is basically one book called Death Before Meeting. It's about a successful company that hired a management consultant, and he said, well, you could be more successful by having more meetings. Well, basically, they had so many meetings. The last meeting was actually to close the company because the company had gone bankrupt. And the second thing I was thinking of sending him was an old Doctor Who episode of Full Circle, where they had a colony that was run by three deciders, and each of them had the system files, or quote the reports from the stationary office of a respected government. I said, well, here, this stationary file, it says this, and in this stationary file, it says this, and the doctor will want to go visit them. And what happened was, even some of the people there, it's like, well, okay, why do we have to replace this part? This is a perfectly good part. Well, according to the system files, we must follow the procedure. Follow the procedure. And even in 1979, in the winter of discontent, as we observed it from the United States, and as people in the UK had to live through it, people got the message when they saw that something is wrong with this picture, something is wrong with this leadership. And that's why basically one party was voted out and took 20 years for them to get voted back in. It's almost like the same thing now. And the reason I was going to send it to us because the European leadership that exists now is practically the same age as I am. I mean, basically, they're in the 60s, and I just turned 60. So we're of the same age that basically in 1979 we were around 18 to 20 and watched this, and I think they would get the message, even if they were to show that to the children. I think the children would understand the message too. That why are we going in circles? Just mindlessly following the procedure, following the procedure, following the procedure. I mean, really. So that's why the thing is, where's the leadership? And the other thing is, what happens. So is when I hear things like last night, even on RT, they had an interesting thing about Israel, Biden visiting Israel, and they had one Israeli politician saying, I wish I had a magic button to put people on a train and send them to Switzerland. I wish them the best of life and hope they have the best of life. Well, what happens is to copy John McLaughlin, long, long, to that one Israeli politician. That was tried with your people many years ago during World War II when the Nazis tried to send you to ghettos, and even had a stylish ghetto in Czechoslovakia where for a while they fooled the International Red Cross, making them think that you were having a better life there too by being sent by the trains to those ghettos. So why would you propose a method that you didn't accept when other people made that decision and you weren't involved in it? Why would you why would you use the same process to involve other people who have no say in your decision about pushing this button? Sometimes I wonder basically even like I saw one clip of the Prime Minister of Austria about for people how to cope in this crisis. Take booze or take alcohol or take psychotropic drugs. Sometimes I wonder when people make this thing about the button. Are you sure you haven't stopped smoking the crack pipe too soon, or haven't put down the hookah? It sounds like someone who's still in a drug daze like that, or maybe you didn't get enough sleep or something. I don't know, but please think over your comments before you make strange comments like that, it does make people wonder about um, your human rights stance and really how well you really do treat the Palestinian people when you make comments like that, though, because even though someone's not wearing a swastika, a comment like that it can be interpreted as someone who does wear a swastika or twisted cross, as it was called too during World War II. So again, where's the leadership? And then, well, at least not at least I say is where because we're as in the United States and Europe, we're pumping more arms into Ukraine. Russia's getting more weapons to counter our weapons we're putting in. We're using these HIMARS things to bomb things. And on the U.S. press now, excuse me, on the U.S. press a few days ago, there was one area that was hit by a HIMARS missile. And now in the foreign press, independent foreign press, I'll say it that way because I want to protect the journalists who are still able to report independently and not be pressured by basically the group that's trying to manage the news of this. They actually said that they attacked a nitrogen factory making nitrogen supplies for planting and for agricultural. Now, when I watched the same report on CBS, I saw that a different film, but it wasn't from the same perspective. I won't use the term for as how they got it, but it wasn't from. But in the CBS news, they claimed that they attacked a military installation. So, so basically, one newscast said they attacked a military installation. Even on PBS NewsHour last night, they said the same thing. Now, independent news said it actually was an agricultural plant. And the person at the agricultural plant, the person was closer and was able to interview locals who verified it was an agricultural plant. So logically, when you consider the square of logic, all is, none is, some are, some are not. Where we are is right now we are in the logical center, where basically both can't be true, both can't be false. And that's because of this, so the effect of this managed news, or some people will say fake news, but other people, I wish one talk discussion later last night and even this morning with a friend, and one person from a country that's allied with the United States, again, I won't give the country and the person's name, protect the identity and the right to speak, said that, well, when they watch their local newscast in their country, their local newscast has become like the new Pravda. And when we heard that, a friend of mine who was with me, he served in NATO from 1966 to 1969, and then in the reserves till 1975 with NATO. And he even questions this thing because when he sees the independent news reports of leaf bombs, of leaf landmines being used, which was supposed to be banned by the Ottawa Convention, and some of the older leaf mines that basically they don't explode after a few hours, so they just sit there forever. You know what I mean by forever, long enough that basically if someone finds them, they may get hurt by them or lose an ankle or a leg or something else. Now, and the other thing about reports about sending untrained troops into battle, that basically they come, they're not giving any training, they're not even given a dog tag. So when they're captured, they don't even have Geneva war rights. God, what type of war is this? I mean, really, I understand war is not pure. I understand war is messy, and the thing is, it's also the thing about, well, we can contain this. Well, folks, when we're sending HIMARS missiles and we're sending these drones, and Russia's ordering drones, they have close to the same capabilities we are. The 8 kilometer missiles and the 24-hour flying range, so they can go like basically like a hawk or vulture, just keep circling and circling and circling until they find something. We're escalating. And the thing is, again, just to give some observations of international news that I observed, I don't give the reporter's name or their broadcast to protect their identities because Ever since RT was banned in Europe, in the United States, and even in Canada, but basically in Israel, RT isn't banned, and in Lebanon, RT isn't banned. I'm concerned about how are we really interpreting freedom of press, because freedom of press means that someone has a right to report on a thing, even if it's objectionable to those managing the event. And that, though, I mean, and that, so basically, that's why, some may say, well, okay, why don't you give a, because I'm trying to protect what I observe on international, so they can still report, because I don't want to see like what happened with YouTube, where basically some programs were pulled, or even where YouTube pulled one accredited journalist who's been U.S. journalist who had 17 years of reports and work on YouTube, and he suddenly became canceled, or basically a new form of being a non-person. I don't. So I still want to give those independent journalists a time, talk, so other people can observe and make their own opinions. But getting back to what I was saying, though, the independent journalists that I've listened to now have discussed basically how when they do try to report what's really going on and what's really being seen, there have been cases where they had to exit the country through alternative means, because in country, meaning Ukraine, they have been pulled in for extra questioning. They've been pulled in for intimidation. They've been again, these are unverified reports, because the managed press will not discuss this. So basically, and they don't talk with these independent journalists, but other press do, and that's where it is verified. But the point is, it is getting to the point that where this is becoming very dangerous, because right now, this morning, one group in Romania who does the weather report for Europe, predicted this winter is going to be one of the harshest winters they've had. Very cold, very harsh, very. And the other thing, what they said is simply that with this new harsh winter coming on, even last night, England had to sign an emergency order regarding that basically, if they don't have enough gas or petrol or heating oil or natural gas to heat their country, they're going to have to shut off the supplies that they send to the EU. So talk about, going back to Rachel Marston's comment about burning your sails and hoping you can make it to shore, some way, whatever your system of confidence or belief is. This, and with Germany today basically announcing, well, actually last night announcing that, when it gets too cold and people can't afford to pay the bills, they have cooling centers. Well, this morning again, people in Germany were interviewed by contributors to RT and other independent journalists about, well, what do they really think about this thing about the German government saying, well, you can come to a warming center. Some people said it's a good way for the government to make themselves feel good. Many people said that. Other people said they wouldn't go there because they just left it at that. But I could tell when they said they wouldn't go there. The reason why they said they wouldn't go there is because it's probably going to be way overswamped. It's probably going to be dangerous, because they're also going to have homeless. They may have some people who are violent. Not all people who are homeless are violent, but basically when people do get desperate, they will do desperate things, like that, because it really does test, how strong you are. Because being homeless is almost like being a soldier in the field. Your feet get wet, your socks get wet, you get wet. You wish for baby wipes so that you can clean yourself, because the place, even though you're in a city, there's no public showers, so you wish for baby wipes in a bathroom that has hot water so you can clean yourself and groom yourself. And I've been through that, having to live on the streets for a few days at a time. It's not fun, and it is really like the closest thing to being in actual warfare, and that, though, because also, even though you may be in the city that you're raised in, you'll have people look at you funny, or people say, well, you deserve to be this, because you went against, either went against God or went against the society, And actually, it wasn't your fault. It was basically just a matter of economics and also being caught in a power squeeze play, or having your building being made condo and you weren't given enough time to actually find a new apartment. And when the new condo people took over, they evicted everyone on October 31st. So basically, they could avoid the November 1st Wisconsin moratorium, and put everyone homeless. So they used the 1 day cause of avoiding the Wisconsin winter moratorium, which starts November 1st, which is what happened in my case many years ago. Um, so, so when you think about the leadership like this, though, um, good heavens! I mean, you know, these four people were elected to look over and manage the needs of 535 million in Europe, if I have my population figures right. And from the interviews I hear and what I hear on the foreign press, and even comparing it to what I hear in press in the United States, even through mostly I watch CBS News and PBS, Fox News, um, as well as sometimes I'll watch ABC and sometimes NBC. But really, when I watch all this, it's like, guys, women, um, you know, um, even what are you guys thinking? Are you sure you guys are basically not trying to burn the candle at multiple ends, or think you can burn a candle at more than two ends? Because are you really listening to your people? Do you really know how your people live and how they have to balance when you see signs of 2.1 euros per liter? Now, to those listening in the United States, 2.1 euros per liter, since the euro is their parity to the dollar, comes out to, and in Europe they use it. Excuse me for using a third person in this. Europe, they use the imperial gallons, so basically that means 2.1 liters per gallon comes out to about $8.40 per gasoline. Ouch! 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 I mean, not even the Hollywood elite or the New York elite or Chicago elite could afford this for a long period of time. Now to the second question. Well, are you listening, elites? There's a reason why I asked this, because sometimes people really wonder, because when they make these policies, um, even on multiple talk shows I listen to, multiple independent journalists and others like that, though, I say, well, basically, they make these policies and they say, they say basically, well, what happens? Well, what are our major policies? And well, the thing is, with the major policies, to the elites, the major policy is wokeness, CRT, BLM. Now, to the people who are not elites and live everyday lives, what are their major policies? How much is a gallon of milk for the children and themselves? How much is the price of bread? How do we stretch the grocery bill so that we have food at the end of the month? Because if we try to go to a food bank in church, they're overwhelmed already, and we may be able to get something, we may not. Um, Also, how do we balance our budget so that we can buy enough gasoline to go to work? Because even in the UK, they claim, from another independent journalist, as per my policy, I don't give names or sources during this time, because I'm concerned about the managed news and the cancel culture trying to selectively cut out certain programs. The reason why I mentioned this, because there's one program I watched, that was on RT, now it's on YouTube, Renegade. But I've noticed they haven't made a new episode in about a month or two. I hope they still can, but I am concerned that why haven't they been able to make an episode in a month or two? And another show I used to watch I watched is Going Underground. And what happens, I haven't been able to get episodes from my location in the United States, and I wonder what happened to them. Were they canceled? So, getting back to the original thought, in England, there are many people who are quitting the jobs because they can't afford to get to work, and that's in addition to driving or using the underground or the bus. Now, really, that says something. Now, do many of the elites like the four like I sort of call them I sort of consider them as the four cones, like the cone heads, where the elites are cone heads were too big. Their biggest task of the day was admiring each other's cone and telling the blunt skulls, which is the people that they had as thought as lower people, how to live their lives. Well, guess what? The blunt skulls realize that you're out of touch. You're out of touch to the elites like that because you don't have to worry about how much a gallon of milk costs, how much bread costs, how much does food, even an entree. And some people say, well, what's the big deal about bread? Well, in many cultures, like I said, I'm part Polish, Prussian, French, German, Viking. In those cultures, bread is a big thing because there are many entrees made from bread, like basically pierogi, halumki, galumki, um, basically masticholi. Because when I was raised in Kenosha, Kenosha has a big Italian culture, so I became very familiar with many types of Italian foods: masticholi, bombers, lasagna, pizza, and actually there's many different kinds of pizza, not just one kind. There's many different kinds depending on what part of Italy the person is from, like that. And so what happens though, and to the least, so they say, well, well, we don't understand bread is bread. No, to many people, it actually is more than just bread because many people sometimes that's their breakfast, two pieces of toast before they have to run off, catch the bus, train, or commute long hours to work. Like in this area, we've seen in Kenosha now are bedroom communities. And what I mean by that is we once used to have manufacturing where, if you lived in Kenosha and we seen, you just went a few blocks to the company and you worked and that was it. But nowadays, when I get up in the morning at 5:30, I see a steady stream of cars going down, either heading up to Milwaukee, but I think mostly going down to Chicago because they're trying to beat the Chicago rush so that they can get to work by 8 o'clock or 8:30. And then at night, when I watch TV at night, I see a steady stream of cars coming back at 7:30 that just came back from leaving Chicago at 5:30 from the Chicago rush hour. Chicago is only 60 miles away south of where I live, but yet, now it takes 2 hours of rush hour to return back to Racine. So 60 miles, so average of 30 miles an hour in rush hour. And now if you think in the morning, 2.5 hours to get to work, so it takes 60 divided by 2.5. So about 25 miles an hour when they get towards Lake County or Lake Crook Road. So, and with these sanctions and everything else, and also with the way this thing is going, the war escalating, and even with managed news, and also with reports about basically, I won't use the word collateral damage, but basically sometimes concerns over reporting that one thing is reported as a military structure and when it's not, or even basically using civilians as human shields in warfare by different groups that may operate outside of the regular army. No one will support that. And then in addition, though, this comment about fighting down we're going to fight down to the last Ukrainian. Well, my personal viewpoint is when I hear that, it's almost like in World War II when I was watching the movie Desert Fox. It talked about Rommel, who was a famous general. His nickname was the Dark Knight because at one point in the Desert Campaign, what happened was the British were Americans were winning in Kursk. And what happened at one point, he received an order from Hitler that says, "Victory or death." And his aide came and says, "Well, sir, I got this right." He said, "Are you sure you interpreted this right? I should have him resend it." I did. I asked him to resend it twice. That's all it says. It says, "Give me the field phone. Let me see if I can talk to him about this. He must have been talking with this crazy people again." And this goes back to basically the elites and the extremists in different political parties who have either prime minister's ear or the president's ear. So he felt that basically it's because someone is, but then when he found out, you mean you actually that's actually from you, you actually mean victory or death? Okay, well, I'll follow through. We'll do our best. And then the phone was slammed down at the other end of the line. And what happens? That's when Lamo knew basically that whoever gives an order of victory or death or fight to the last man, it's time. It's time for the ship's doctor or the base commander to classify the commanding officer as medically disabled and have the XO take over. In that. So those who haven't worked in the military system or military service, um, in military service, the commanding officer is the superior officer that controls, that gives orders for different forces and everything else. Because the United States, we don't have the rank of field marshal, but in European terms, it'd be a field marshal, and the XO would actually be the XO, but it'd be someone who could take over the field marshal when the field marshal is not able to perform their duties. So what happens? But even in the Navy, if a captain exhibits odd behavior or behavior that's deemed medically sick, the doctor has a right to replace the captain with the XO. And the officers have a right to replace the captain XO if a group of officers also say the same thing. In the United States and also in parliamentary countries as UK and even the European Union, if the head of the European Union or president is deemed that not having the faculties to continue the duties, the United States has the 21st Amendment, which can be invoked by members of his cabinet or his or her cabinet or by the Congress. In the European system, I'm not sure if they have anything like the 21st Amendment, but I believe that there is a way that a doctor has the same right as in the Navy to have the XO or vice president or vice president take over but the point is simply this. Um, People think that the elites think that we can do this for 5 years. We're going to do this for 2 to 5 years, and everything's going to be great. Um, I would like to recommend that. Let me just put up a link here. I'd like to recommend that you watch a video here. Let's see that though, like that though, and stuff. Like that though. And hold on a minute. Let me just check something on the phone. Okay, I'll get that. But let me just copy the link address. I'll put two of them on here in the comments. And let's see. Let me get another one here. And put it in the comments. And let me put a third one. Now this third one was actually made in Europe in the 80s when the Cold War was really very close to basically getting to a very 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 dangerous period. And this is this last one is a video by Nina, 99 Luft Balloons. And the reason I put the German one is because I felt the German one was uncensored compared to the American one. So the whole thing about this is basically we really got to consider alternative points of view, and to some of our viewers basically who may not be able to get direct news reports. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start putting some links in so that maybe if you're able to get these links through a different means like this, you can you can basically take a look. Now I'm putting these links in as an observer. I'm not acting as a cheerleader. I'm just because I trust you to make your own decision. I trust you to make your own your own basis. And it's really it really is something though. when you think about it, um, because basically when you see different points of view, you will see that, like for example, in one show, Talk, they had one person from Lebanon who's a university lecturer, and also she's basically um, she also is a commentator, and when I listen to her, she follows her Muslim faith, but she is still independent and intellectual, which I respect. I do respect women that, and also I do respect someone when they do follow their faith because they're doing it because basically they want to do it. They're not doing it because they feel they're forced to do it, and that's why basically like that though. That's why basically, and when she does speak, she really does give an intellectual response as to what is really what do people basically who are nearest to what's going on feel, and to me basically that's good to see because sometimes I don't see this in the managed newscast. Well, let me know what you think, and I'll be back another time with a podcast from Ideas with Diana. I'd like to thank everyone for watching in the United States and our international audience, and to everyone, keep strong. Wiser heads will prevail, but remember keep an open mind. Listen to independent views. Don't be muzzleized or put blinders on. So keep strong. Keep strong.